What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the Thomas Gallery, and today I want to talk about a potentially touchy subject, right? But I'm no stranger to controversy. So I want to talk about art in racism. Now, when people probably hear that title, probably think, wait, that don't sound quite right. Art in racism? Yes, art in racism. Or you could say racism in art. Whichever one you want to choose is fine. But this subject came to my mind thinking about how we as people view other people negatively through art. Right? So here we go. Throughout the years, you know, well, let me rephrase that. I will say as far back as the early 20th century, as far back as the earlier 20th century, in this country, in this culture in particular, the arts have been used to enforce racist ideas. What do I mean by that? Who remembers seeing? Well, I don't want to remember. Who is familiar with the cartoons way back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, where they would stereotype African Americans? Who remember that? You would see the slow talking, shucking and jiving, big lip, big nose, odd hairstyles, caricatures of African Americans during that time. Well, that is racism in art. Okay? And I can recall a time watching the Tom and Jerry cartoons where you had the mammy, the black mammy or the black maid or the nanny. They called her mammy, and she was always very big, cankles and all that stuff, and she always spoke with oh lordy lord, OWT out that. Who remembers that? That Tom and Jerry cartoon, and you never saw her from the knee up. It was always from the knee down. Every single time it was from the knee down. Okay? That was a negative stereotype against African Americans, women especially, during the times where African American women were maids, and a lot of the movies and a lot of shows you saw in other cartoons, African American women were depicted as maids or some kind of servant role, always in a role of servitude, and they never spoke as though they were educated. Okay, all that to the point where if someone were to use proper grammar or proper diction when they're speaking, if they were black, they would be told they're speaking white. I was told this when I was younger. When I would speak to someone, they would say, "Why are you always talking white?" That was a shot at the fact that I spoke proper English. Well, let me phrase that. I spoke proper American English, because the English in England is a little different from the English spoken in America. But that's not the point. Or you would see depictions of the Chinese in cartoons. If you look at the early cartoons, they always show the Chinese in a very degrading form. They always show them with their hands in their sleeves like this, and they had their eyes all closed like this, and with the buck teeth. Hollywood has done this. Cartoons have done this. Or you would see shows like Speedy Gonzales. For those who don't know, Speedy Gonzales was a small mouse from Mexico who would run extremely fast. Okay? That was one negative stereotype, because it was running. There's the whole thing about running across the border, from Mexico to the United States, or Texas specifically, to the point where that show got canceled. But in that cartoon, also in that cartoon, you had his cousin, Slowpoke Rodriguez or something like that, where he was considered slow and lazy. You also had in the Speedy Gonzales cartoons two crows. Who knows the two crows that always slept? They were always sleeping on the wall with their sombrero over their face, and they would just sleep and say, hey, and I'm gonna say, see, say, do you want to do something? I'm gonna say, no. And I'm gonna say, I want to sleep. Okay, and then go back to sleep. That was a racist depiction of Mexicans, showing them to be lazy, which is not true. Okay, but you also had the same thing when it came to African Americans. Recently I saw a cartoon. I think the cartoon was from the 30s or the 40s, and it was a cartoon where these black people just sitting around doing absolutely nothing. Men, women, and children doing nothing. It was mainly men, and it was children doing nothing. The only person that was working was a real heavy set black mammy, and she was cleaning clothes. She was scrubbing. She was scrubbing real hard. But everyone else, all the other blacks were just sitting around sleeping. One person, it was one with the picture where it was a man who was sleeping so hard that there was a ball of cotton over his face, and he was snoring, and he was snoring so hard and so loud that the cotton ball would be levitating and floating in the air, and when he would inhale, it would go to his mouth, and exhale, it would blow up in the air, and keep on doing that. Now, the only person moving or doing anything in that whole crowd, like I said, was the heavyset black mammy. This cartoon is completely racist. Completely racist. I'm trying to remember. See if I can remember the actual thing. I found it on YouTube also. See if I can find it. Let's see. Find it. Well, it don't have a name on it, but it's if you type in racist cartoons or banned cartoons on YouTube, you will find them. But the point is, all of the men who were sleeping like bales and balls of bags of cotton, they were just sleeping, doing nothing. The heavyset mammy was working, the only one working, and all of a sudden this boat comes up. This boat comes up to the pier, right? And then there's this light skin, or as they call it, fair skin, which is also a racist term. Fair skin is a racist term. This fair skinned woman who was slimmer, had a Coke bottle shape. She came off the boat, walked on the pier, and in an instant, all of the black men that were laying around being lazy, including the old men, immediately got up and started dancing. They all started dancing, right? And to the point where the woman, the slim woman, was singing, and all of them started singing and dancing also. They even had an old man dancing, and when they showed the children, they would show the children. The children had the wild hairstyles with the sticking up braids with the red bows on them and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, I said, you know what? They're actually showing, with cartoons, they're actually showing former slaves or children of slaves. Here's why. The cartoon was made, I think in the, I want to say the 1930s, I believe. It was set in the 1930s. The cartoon was made It came from a song. It was a song that was recorded, and they made a cartoon from it. The people, the characters, the caricatures, I should say, in the cartoon looked from the adults rather, the age of mid 20s, all the way to elderly, right? The elders were even there. I said, you know what? If this cartoon was made in the early 1900s, this cartoon was made in the early 1900s, okay? The early 1900s. These people depicted in this cartoon, if you were to do like a time check, these people in the cartoon were the children of slaves. These were sharecroppers. The black men, the elderly black men, and the children were sharecroppers. Why do I say that? Emancipation Proclamation was 1865. You had a 12-year period from 1865 to 1877 called the Reformation. At 1877, was the Compromise of 1877, this is where you had what's called sharecropping, where the books were doctored against the former slaves or the children of slaves, where they had to pay off in a debt, pretty much indentured servitude. They pretty much cheated the former slaves out of their freedom and put them back on a plantation to pick cotton, but instead for free they did it for a smaller wage. Anyway, this cartoon was made during the time of that sharecropping era, from 1877 on to the early 20th century. So these are the children of slaves. These sharecroppers are the children and grandchildren of slaves. These descendants of slaves were depicted as lazy in this cartoon. Depicted as lazy in this cartoon. They also, like I said, they also got up. These men got up and started dancing the moment this fair-skinned, slim-figured woman came off the boat and walked on the pier. She started singing. Now, everybody was singing. Everybody in the cartoon was singing. The little girls, the little boys, the grown men, and the elderly men were singing and dancing with the woman off the boat. The only one that wasn't singing and wasn't dancing was the heavy-set black mammy. She was still washing clothes. Still washing clothes. And the moment the slim woman got back on the boat and she left, they stopped dancing and singing. That is a racist stereotype in cartoons. You also have the depiction of blacks eating a watermelon. We all know about that. The blacks eating the watermelon, which was made very, 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 very profound by Jay-Z's album 444, when he did his song "The Story of OJ," and he made the video off the story of OJ, and the video was made to depict that minstrel show stereotypical art form, that drawing style back then. And the message was of that video, that visual, because the video is still art. The message was, no matter how high you go or how we could be a light skin, dark skin, real, fake, poor, rich, still a nigga. Then you had the picture of the man eating the watermelon. That came from an actual racist cartoon. So art, like I said, art didn't start racism. Let's not mistake that. Art did not start racism. The person drawing the art gave a visual depiction of his or her racist stereotype. Most likely it was a man who drew this. But the artist would give a visual depiction of their racist views. If you look at the old cartoon, now they don't do it now. They kind of still, you kind of can see, if you look at Dragon Ball Z, Mr. Popo. Mr. Popo is an minstrel show caricature of black people that they used to like if you see a picture of Mr. Popo and you go back to the cartoons in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, nothing has changed. The big no light brown or pink ring around the mouth to show as a lips, because they think all blacks have big lips, which isn't totally true. We do, yes, but not totally true. But back then, that's how we were shown. We were shown as very dark skin with big bulging eyes, large full lips that were like pink or light red. And here's the thing about that cartoon animation where everybody dancing. Here's the thing: they could have drawn the hair different, but what they did was for the black sharecroppers, they had all their hairstyles looking crazy. The woman got off the boat, had a different hairstyle. Her hair was coiffed, as it said, was fixed. Her hair was, done nicely. They gave her a nice figure. They also made her light skin. She was the only light-skinned person or white person in the entire cartoon. The only one. When she came up, she got off the pier and walked on, everybody started singing and dancing. When she left, they stopped and went right back to sleeping. That was now, cartoons now aren't as blatant as they were back then, but it is still so. Like I said, the most blatant one I've seen is Mr. Popo for Dragon Ball Z. That's blatant caricature of black people. Flat out blatant. They had it, back in the 80s and the 90s when I was growing up. Like, they had Speedy Gonzalez, that type of stuff. And you had Tom and Jerry with the mammy. But they changed the mammy when it was from Tom and Jerry, when on the Muppet Babies, the mammy was white. And her legs weren't as thick. But on Tom and Jerry, the mammy was black, real heavy. The mammy had cankles on Tom and Jerry. On the Muppet Babies, the mammy didn't. So now you still didn't see the mammy on the Muppets, like you didn't see the mammy on Tom and Jerry, but you could tell the difference between the two. You could tell what was going on. So you also have racism in movies. Movies are a form of art. You have movies like Gods of Egypt, and the only black people in that movie were the servants. Not the actual gods that were depicted on the walls of Egypt during that time where they were all dark skinned. During the time of that story of Osiris and Osset and Heru and Set and Anpu, there were no Europeans there. Okay? Most of the people from ancient Egypt, their lineage came from Ethiopia, Sudan. Those are dark people. They depicted the gods in their stories as dark, either green or dark, because Ptah and Asar were green. Everybody else, Isis, Ma'at, Heru with the falcon head, all dark. So you saw it in that art form. We saw it in theater, the theater arts. You saw it there. You saw it with the story of Noah with Russell Crowe. What in the world is Russell Crowe doing playing Noah? Or why is Charlton Heston playing Moses? One's from Egypt and one's from the Middle East. What is Charlton Heston doing there? What is Russell Crowe doing? Russell Crowe's from Australia. Now, when you think of Australia, you think about Mel Gibson. You think about Russell Crowe. You think about Kylie Minogue. You don't think about the Aboriginal people who actually the original people of Australia. They're dark. But when you look at the movies and you see, they had a movie about the story of Buddha. Buddha wasn't Indian. In the movie they had, I forgot who played Buddha, but Buddha wasn't Indian. Now when they had the story of Gandhi, they had was it Ben Kingsley. He's from India, so that makes sense. Okay, they even had in the early 19th century, like the mid early 19th century, they had I forgot his name, was it a Mickey Rooney? But Mickey Rooney played an Asian. He did the whole squinty eyed and buck teeth, that type of stuff. Mickey Rooney playing a Chinese person. That's the arts going into racism. Sorry, that's racism going into arts. And let's not talk about what they did to Barack Obama and Michelle Obama during President Barack Obama's presidency, his two-term 8-year presidency. The cartoonists, the satirists, the political pundits, they went to town on President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama. They had Barack depicted as a monkey. Him and Michelle depicted as monkeys. They drew images of this. Like, and in this day and age in 2017, you can't tell, to me nowadays, you can't tell me, oh, I didn't know it was racist. This is 2017. This is the year of social media. This is the year of, the technological age. Where everybody who knows anybody is connected to somebody else. You can't tell me nowadays, oh, I didn't know that me drawing a picture of Barack Obama as a monkey was racist. You can't tell me that anymore. You may be able to say that during the early 90s and the 80s and the 70s and backwards. You can get away with saying that. You can get away with that back then. But in this particular age, the age of social media and technological age, the IT era, as we know it, you can't tell me, oh, I didn't know that me drawing Michelle Obama with a overly pronounced derriere and referring to her as a monkey was racist. And drawing it, and it's one thing when you're saying it, it's another thing when you write it. It's a totally different thing when you actually draw it out, and somebody actually took the time to draw. They took pencil and ink to paper, sat down, and thought about this image that, I'm going to draw a picture of Barack and Michelle Obama as monkeys. That's good. I'm sorry, apes. Because they didn't draw tails. Chimps are apes, not monkeys. Let me correct that. Somebody sat down and said, I'm going to draw a picture of Barack and Michelle Obama as apes, as chimps, as another kind of primate. And then they sent it out, and the editor, whoever goes around and okays or rejects certain ideas, said, you know what, that's good. Print that, take it out. They do the same thing when it comes to Muslims. How many negative stereotypical drawings have we seen of Muslims? Where they take every single Muslim in the world and jumping them all up with ISIS, jumping them all up with Al Qaeda. They like the way it is now, the way things are going now. When you think about Muslim, you think about every single Muslim on the planet is a part of Al Qaeda. About how many billion, like 1.6 billion Muslims on the planet, and you think every single one of them is a part of Al Qaeda and ISIS. Mainly because of the visual depiction of the media and also the drawings. This is very important. Image is very powerful. A picture is worth 1,000 words. That expression rings true when it comes to racism in art. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and sometimes 1,000 racist words. So many ideas that we have about other people that may be considered racist, many of those ideas came from the art that we view of them. Think about that. During the Crusades, when they had the depiction, when the Muslims had the depiction of the Christians had the depiction of the Muslims. They weren't positive. They were negative stereotypes of the different faiths. And then once that image was spread out, propaganda ensued. You can spin the story however you want to. How did the colonies draw King George III during the Revolutionary War? Did they draw King George III, in a lovely light, or did they draw him because you drew images of him? How did the 13 colonies depict? How did the 13 colonies draw a visual depiction of King George III? And then they took that image. They took that image of that caricature of King George III and spread it throughout the 13 colonies. It's okay. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go, colony. Here you go, colony. This is how we colonies see King George III. Since we don't want to be around him no more, this is how we see him. The British did it to the French, vice versa. So art is very powerful. But when you have a racist mindset and put that into art, you can have a powder keg. So many of our negative stereotypes or our racist ideas of other people came from the drawings that we see, the art that we see. Think about that. Think about how many cartoons you've seen that were blatantly racist, and then think to yourself, what artist sat down and drew this and thought this was good? Think about that, right? So, thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed my rant, my spiel. Leave a comment down below, like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I will catch you all later. Peace.